Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm here today with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going today, Bill?
Well, it's going better than it was the other day.
Did you have a good Christmas?
I have, yeah, it was, I mean, what do you do when you've got a root canal coming up
Yeah, that's no
on a
fun.
holiday and the dentist can't see you, right? So,
I get it. I get it. Um, Anyways, so we're going to talk a little bit about some of our top stories from 2024 today. Make it a little bit different. It's the day after Christmas when we're recording this. Let's see here. Let's talk about the White House and Tesla's charging standard. So this was one of the top articles for 2024, and it really does look like the NACS charging standard will be the one to rule them all, doesn't it?
yeah, it does. It's
At least in the
absolutely
United States, maybe not internationally, but in the
no,
United
no, but
States.
yeah, at least in the United States. In fact, I think Hyundai drivers will now have, or will shortly in the next week or so, will have access to the Tesla chargers. So it's slowly expanding and encompassing more and more of the manufacturers' cars.
I think Nissan gets access to it next month too.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're going to do adapters from the CHAdeMO network. It's like there's not a whole lot of CHAdeMO
No,
adapters, chargers out there.
it's just never caught on.
Um, so yeah, but it does seem the United States, you got a couple of reasons. I mean, Tesla maintains their network, and that's probably the simplest thing is if there's failures charging, Tesla knows about it.
Yeah, well, Nissan never got aggressive about, doing what Tesla did very early on and said, look, we're going to sell cars. We got to build a network for them. And so they invested a lot of effort, money, and engineering into building and expanding this network to what it is today. And not only that, but then they also invested to make sure that those networks are, have 98 or whatever it is percent uptime. And Nissan, I don't, in following Nissan for decades now, they never made that kind of commitment. I mean, I think they were really focused on building those CHAdeMOs, across Japan, which is natural.
Yeah.
But they just didn't do the same thing either in Europe or here in the United States. Yeah, there are some around, but not to
But
the degree that Tesla
but
did.
their business model's different though. So Tesla designed initially started out as a luxury car maker making the Model S, and it was designed to do everything a gas car could do and travel. And people traveled back and forth the country because they put in that network. But
Right.
Nissan, they're truly, you hear all these arguments, oh, EVs are great city cars. Well, yeah, some of them like the Fiat 500e, the original Nissan Leafs. Almost all of your original EVs had other than Tesla, had under 100-mile range.
Yep. Yep.
And so they were truly just getting around town cars. They weren't designed to go city to city. The fact that my friend with the 80-mile range BMW i3 takes it cross country is just nuts. He
Nuts,
keeps doing
exactly.
it. He goes all over the country in that damn BMW i3, and I don't know.
Why don't we get him on here sometime and find out what that experience is like? I'm really curious.
Yeah, well,
Because he must
you
spend
know,
a lot of time either, filling up that 1 gallon or 2 gallon tank, whatever it is. And he can clarify that for us.
like I've
And
told
then,
you, we go to a tennis tournament in Arizona. He shows up, he leaves like 5 days ahead and starts traveling because he's going to all these like level 1 and level 2 chargers and
why
stuff like
not?
that.
Why not?
Yeah. Oh, he's not even going to superchargers. It's really
Probably not.
funny.
Probably because the car won't handle them, I would imagine, but it
Yeah.
wasn't
Well,
designed for them.
no, but one of the big things is Tesla's network. You don't have to have apps. You don't have to have anything else. If you're set up in the system, all you do is you plug the thing
Plug
into
it
your
in.
car and it charges.
Yep.
And it charges to whatever you have your computer set to in the car. And that's coming in 25 to people other than Tesla. I always tell people they're looking at an EV, I always tell them you can't go wrong buying a Tesla because of the network.
Right.
Okay, so all the disappointments that other people have in EVs, they really don't have. Um, they really don't have the same experience
It's a
when
much
they
much
drive Tesla.
it's a much more transparent process, you know. So yeah,
Yeah, it's not
that's
to say
part of
that
the reason why
Teslas are
they are
necessary.
where they are.
Yeah. So it's not to say that Tesla is necessarily making better cars than everybody else, but they've done a better job of creating the infrastructure,
Right.
making it a seamless experience for the owners. I mean, you look at how bad things went for Ford when they brought out the F-150 and they started getting those stories published about how people couldn't
Mhm.
charge or
Yeah.
but reality was they went to charging locations that were not Tesla charging locations because they weren't set up for it at that time
Right.
and they didn't work. The chargers were broken, and
Right.
so people got stuck, and it was really bad press for Ford and EVs in general because a few, but in reality it was mainly one guy trying to travel out of Canada into the US,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
story got played over and over and over again.
Over and over again. Yeah. Well,
you know you
that's the power of social media
well you know
for good and
one
bad.
of one of the top stories we had earlier this year was about all of these Hertz rental car drivers in Chicago that were renting so they could drive for Uber,
Hmm.
and how their cars couldn't charge at the Tesla supercharging network, that apparently they didn't know what to do or whatever. And so now we hear all these things about how you can't drive EVs in the
In
wintertime.
the wintertime.
And
Yeah.
yet, we've had a great article recently talking about how in Norway, their average difference range loss between summer and winter is 19%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they know how to heat. They said what'll happen is you may start driving and the range may show reduced, but once the battery heats up, um, then the range comes back.
Gets bigger. Yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
I did a look up because I read that article. I said, well, I wonder if my Fiat has the ability to take and preheat the battery, right?
Hmm.
And it turns out it does. So what I need to do is get the Fiat app, and put
Hmm.
that app on there so I can. But apparently, I can also do it through
Well,
the
to
car
use the app,
itself.
you have to get rid of your flip phone and get a modern phone that's got. Just kidding.
Come on, come on. Here's my phone. I'm not that old, but I do have one somewhere around.
You probably still got one as a backup, right? Yeah. I know somebody that still uses a flip phone, and people get mad at him because he doesn't respond to texts.
Oh,
And
next, what
you
is
know,
that?
yeah, it's not. He's got one of those ones where you got to, hit the the one key three times or whatever to get A B C D.
Oh,
ABC1,
yeah, yeah,
ABC1.
yeah,
You
yeah,
got to keep hitting it
yeah.
like that. So he has four times as many keystrokes to respond to a text. Yeah, but anyways, yeah, I'm just saying that we see all these things. That was one of the top stories this year, was how EVs don't work in wintertime all of a
Yeah.
sudden. Then people just hung on to that, and I still see it. We had a massive response to one of our recent videos about Toyota, and people keep bringing up wintertime EV driving.
Yeah.
I mean, there's crazy comments on the video, but a lot of it is once again about wintertime EV driving. And it's like,
Yeah.
really?
Well,
You're gonna
you turn, and of course, here's the thing is that I have my car has it's a dated 2016 early
Mhm,
generation, so it has a radiant heater. So obviously that's going to suck power out of the battery.
mhm,
But driving here, going over to the dentist or whatever the anyway, I'll call him the dentist. Going over to his
mhm,
place, I try to use the heat seater, right? That doesn't pull any current whatsoever out of the battery to speak of. It's negligible. But I turn
mhm,
on the heater for defroster and things like that, and I'll drop maybe 10 miles, 7 to 10 miles, depending on out the temperature outside and how I'd been driving previously. So it's negligible, but again, it's a city car, and I'm not going
right.
to try to go to Des Moines or Kansas City or somewhere in that car without making plans to take a tent and camp.
It's interesting though to see how many people think that all EVs are just city cars. They don't realize how many have 300 and
Oh no, not
400
anymore.
mile range.
Not anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the ones available now are, well beyond bladder range.
Yeah. Well, do you really need a 900-mile range, Tommy? I mean, who needs that? Who can drive that far
Who needs
without
it?
stopping? You know, um, that's a bit of a challenge. Well, and the fire problem is really overblown. Gas cars are 60 times as likely per mile driven to catch on fire as an EV.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just that for some damn reason, every time there is an EV fire, which they happen, but there's
And
a
they
crazy
get
amount of
covered.
gas car fires every day.
It's so
You know,
common that it doesn't get reported.
right? Yeah, yeah. According to insurance statistics, per mile driven, you're 60 times as likely per mile of having a fire in your gas car as you are an EV. Although a plug-in hybrid has twice the rate of gas cars. So apparently combining the two isn't a good combo. But a lot of that is the additional electrical systems. So while the fires in gas cars typically are electrical fires, it's a thing. But right now, you could put 600-mile range batteries in cars. I don't know about 900-mile range, because there's already cars with 500-mile ranges. But once you start putting that in, the price really goes up. And the other thing is your efficiency of how far you go per kilowatt is reduced.
Yeah.
So, there's a happy medium of around 3.5 to 4 miles per kilowatt that seems to be an efficient range. Because we talked about this before, like your Chevy trucks and your Hummer EV, they go like 1.5 miles per kilowatt. They're the least efficient electric vehicles, and they have a 200 plus kilowatt hour battery. That is, whereas the Tesla long ranges are anywhere from 85 to 100 kilowatt hour. And so your Chevys are more than double to almost triple the size of those batteries. So crazy weight.
Yeah. Well,
The Hummer EV is 9,000 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
speaking of batteries, there's an article that I either have posted or will shortly post, that the price per kilowatt for bids. These were bids for what are called BESS, was battery energy storage systems in China, by a company, a large their utility company or whatever over there, put a bid out, got back a bid of $666 per kilowatt. That is what, half of where we are right now. And of course, what does that mean in terms of the cost of electric cars and battery storage and everything else? This was for the lithium iron phosphate batteries, $66 a kilowatt hour. That's remarkable, and that's probably going to have some significant impact. Now, of course, these are made in China, and whether those can, those prices will translate over here into either Europe or the U.S. Is questionable. But
well, think about that. A typical battery pack on most EVs, let's just say it's 60 to 70. You're talking about a $4,500 battery replacement.
Yeah.
I mean, these arguments about EVs being expensive to fix and all that, it's like, that's all out the window. And since that's the single most expensive part of an EV, you're going to start, that's going to, in theory, you take that 200 kilowatt hour battery in some of those big Chevy trucks, and you start talking a production cost about $13,500 for, one of those batteries. Whereas at the moment,
can they ask $90,000 for the truck now?
Yeah, that's a huge savings. I mean, just an engine for a gas truck is probably, I know if you had to have a replacement, the part alone is over $10,000 to get a replacement new engine for one of those. So I'm just saying, that's a big difference in where things are going. All right, let's see. We want to talk. You wanted to talk about Rivian delivery vans.
Well, that's just what I did was I went through the database and I said which were the most popular stories of the year, and what it
Mhm.
returned to me, most of them are you get a few hundred-page views. Four of those stories were only one was below 8,000, and the other three stories were over 8,000 views. I have no clue why those particular stories did that, but one of them, of course, was the Rivian van. And I've had the opportunity now twice because, you know, they're all over the place here in Omaha. I've had
Right.
the opportunity to stop and talk briefly to delivery drivers and say, well, what do you guys think? What do you like it? They love it. The two I've talked to, they love it. So much easier and better for them to drive than the gas versions that they sometimes have to use because of maintenance issues and so on. And they're really happy with them. So
No, they're able to deliver a lot more packages in the Rivian van simply because of the time savings at each stop. They don't have to engage the parking brake. They don't. There's certain things that you don't have to fiddle with the key. There's a whole bunch of things they don't have to do with the Rivian vans, and it's apparently there's 4 extra steps that the drivers have to take on every delivery
oh, that's
in
interesting.
in the petrol vans
Yeah.
versus the Rivians. And the Rivians, they can keep the air conditioner on in the summer. They have heated seats. There's a whole bunch of things that are,
Things that they really like. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
they really like to have.
from the reaction I got from these two drivers, they're very, very happy with those vans. Now, I assume, of course, Rivian ran into an issue earlier, in the fall here or late summer with apparently a mix-up on ordering the motors for upcoming vehicles. So I
Uh-huh.
don't know if you're covered from that or not. So there's been some delays in being able to deliver, manufacture the vehicles and things. I haven't heard a follow up on that yet, though.
Well, I know a couple months ago, Rivian stock took a hit because they announced that they were having supply chain issues, but the
Exactly, that
stock
was
has
the motor.
solidly
Yeah,
rebounded since then.
yeah. It's they ran into a problem with their supplier, which I think was Bosch.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let's see. So what's interesting, in 2023, what was it? 1 in 5 new car sales globally were EVs. And there was an article we had that was really popular. It said that curbed oil demand. And you and I have discussed this because I'm sure it did slow down oil demand. It didn't make it go, but that's another title where, you hear this stuff about EV sales are slowing down. Well, the growth of EV sales is slowing down. The EV sales are actually selling faster. So it's kind of somebody used it kind of the same analogy here. It's just global oil demand keeps going up year over year. It would have gone up more if it weren't for the massive sales of EVs.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering how much we'll see where 2024 climbed from the 20% we had in 2023.
Well, I've seen a lot of articles of saying, "Look, if you're thinking about an EV, you better do it now because they'll be more expensive next year, presumably because the incoming administration will do what they can to do away with or restrict whatever the $7,500 tax credit."
Well, what company that sells EVs in the US do you think is going to take advantage of the reduction in the cost of the batteries before everybody else? We all know who that is, right?
Oh yeah,
It's going
yeah,
to be Tesla. Musk is going to do it first. And so what'll happen is as the battery prices drop, Musk will start selling the Model 3 and the Model Y for $2,000 or $3,000 cheaper, which will cause Ford to slash the price on the Mach-E.
right,
And those companies are going to lose money while Tesla is going to continue making money.
right.
And Tesla, their real big advantage is that they figured out how to make cars cheaper than the US companies. Um, let's see here. All right. This climbing star Alex Honnold. Now, this was back from February. Okay.
Hmm.
Says electric pickup is like driving a spaceship. Do you know what vehicle he bought? Did he get a Rivian? or did he
I
get
don't.
a?
I think it's a Rivian, but don't. We'd have to go back and look at the article. I'm sorry. I ran out of time because I got involved in doing something else, and so I apologize. But um, the article. Well, let's
It
see
is
if
a
I
Rivian. It is a
is
Rivian.
it Rivian. Okay, all right, good.
Okay.
I'm glad you found it.
Yeah. He says it's like a spaceship because of the advanced technology, smooth acceleration, near silent operation, and overall futuristic feel of driving an electric vehicle, especially when compared to traditional gasoline powered trucks. He said that the experience is significantly different and very impressive, hence the spaceship analogy.
Yeah.
All right. And anyways, folks, we decided to do the holiday show today a little late, and we're going to cut it a little bit shorter than normal. And we covered
Thank
the
you.
articles we wanted to do on the recap and more for Bill's benefit. Hope everybody is back to join us next week. And Bill and I will be back on Tuesday. Otherwise,
Okay.
folks, have a great day.